Okay, here we go again. O temple of holiness, we verily have cleansed thy breast from the whisperings of the people and sanctified it from earthly illusions, that the light of my beauty may appear therein and be reflected in the mirrors of all the worlds. Thus have we singled thee out above all that hath been created in the heavens and on the earth, and above all that hath been decreed in the realms of revelation and creation, and chosen thee for our own self. This is but an evidence of the bounty which God hath vouchsafed unto thee, a bounty which shall last unto the day that hath no end in this contingent world. It shall endure so long as God, the supreme King, the help in peril, the mighty, the wise, shall endure. For the day of God is none other but his own self, who hath appeared with the power of truth. This is the day that shall not be followed by night, nor shall it be bounded by any praise. Would that ye might understand. Okay, so let's look at the last part of this. He says, the day of God is none other but his own self. Okay, so again, this is a very mysterious concept. Basically, it's saying that from age to age, God sends divine messengers or manifestations, and that those manifestations are the perfect channels of the will of God. And because they're the perfect channels of the will of God, and because they're perfect morally, spiritually, and intellectually, for all practical purposes, we say that they're the self of God. But at the same time that we say that, we understand that God is actually unknowable, and anything we say about God is not true, because we're using human terms, and human terms are limited. Human beings are limited. So kind of have to open your mind for these concepts to sort of waft through. So when it talks about the self of God, it's basically talking about the manifestation, because the manifestation is all we can actually know of God. But at the same time, we understand that the manifestation isn't God. Okay? So it sort of is and it isn't. And if you want to talk more about that, or if you've got questions, please submit them, because this is a big topic, and it would be great to open it up more. So he's saying that the day of God, which we think of as the day in which the manifestation of God lives, that the day of God is the same as the manifestation of God. Well, now the manifestation of God has passed away, but we're still living in the day of God. Well, we're not living literally in the day of God, because the manifestation of God has passed away. So, but we're living in the time of the revelation of the latest manifestation of God, the dispensation of Bahá'u'lláh. So, and then this is really interesting. He says, this is the day that shall not be followed by night, nor shall it be bounded by any praise. Would that ye might understand. Okay, so the day that shall not be followed by night. This is the day that's been prophesied in all the world's religions, the time of the end, the time of the descent of the kingdom of God on earth. So this is what Baha'u'lláh came to bring. He brought teachings for humanity to put into practice to bring about this day. In a sense, it's already here. Because if you think about it, if you plant a seed in the ground, and the seed gets moistened and it begins to sprout. It's still under the ground. You might not see it, but that tree is already here. And then it pokes its little head up above the ground. And you see this little seedling, but it doesn't look like a big tree, but it's here. Well, that's the case. The day of God is here. The day that all the religions have been waiting for is here. It was brought by Bahá'u'lláh. It's being manifested by his followers, and it is the kingdom of God on earth, and it will expand until it encompasses the whole earth. And that's why it's the day that shall not be followed by night. In the case of every other revelation from God, Moses, Jesus, Muhammad, white buffalo calf woman, whoever, there was always like an upswing and a downturn. So when they first came, the civilizations flourished, reached a peak, and began to disintegrate. They began to disintegrate because human beings interfered with the message and co-opted the message and messed with it and messed with other human beings out of greed, manipulation, desire for power, desire for leadership, ignorance, whatever. But that's why the message of God has to be renewed from day to day. And that's why there are all these religions in the world, because they're the renewal of the Word of God from age to age. But it has to keep happening. It will always happen. Baha'u'lláh has explained that. But this revelation, the revelation of Bahá'u'lláh, has already ushered in the age of peace that humanity is looking for. Yes, of course, we see these wars and rumors of wars and the fires and the floods and all the devastation and all the fighting. Nobody's saying that isn't here too. But there are two forces. One is the force of disintegration. People who are trying to hold on to their positions, to the old ways, to their stubbornness, to their separate, their concern about themselves at the expense of others. Those are the forces of disintegration. As we see before our eyes, they're falling apart. These governments, these principalities, these religions are falling apart. They can't be sustained. They're falling by their own weight, but there's another thing that's happening in the world, and that's the force of integration. And that is all the movements for human rights that we see, for women's rights, for the rights of children, for the rights of animals, for justice, for equality, for spirituality, for the oneness of religion, which we see happening before our very eyes. That's the force of integration. That is happening as a result of the energy that was released when Bahá'u'lláh, the manifestation of God for this age, was born and came into this world. Because that's his mission, to bring this age of peace that we've all heard about. Whether you call it the Messiah, or the return of Christ, or the return of white buffalo calf woman, or the fifth Buddha, or the return of Krishna, or the coming of the 12th Imam, or what have you. It's the same prophecy, and that's who Baha'u'lláh is. And that's why this is the day that shall not be followed by night, because Baha'u'llah's kingdom of justice and spirituality and equality is destined to last 500,000 years. Now, there will be manifestations before that time. Baha'u'lláh said the next manifestation will come in no less than 1,000 years, and he said that about 150 years ago. So that leaves maybe 750, 850 years. So there will be manifestations of God that will come, but this kingdom of God on earth is destined to last 500,000 years. So then there's another really interesting thing in this paragraph. It says, nor shall it be, this is the day that shall not be followed by night, nor shall it be bounded by any praise. Would that ye might understand. Well, that threw me for a loop when I read that last night. It's like, what? what does he mean it won't be bounded by any praise? So I meditated on it, because this is what Bahá'u'lláh says to do. He says to meditate on the writings. So whenever I find something that I don't understand, I just close my eyes and I say a little prayer asking for God to shine light into my mind so that I can understand. And usually it starts out, I don't believe that I'm ever going to understand. But then it's amazing how it works. So this is what I came up with, and maybe you come up with something different. What it means to me that it shall not be bounded by any praise is that the glory of this day is so overwhelming. It's the destiny of this time is so overwhelming that our words cannot encompass it. It's beyond our imaginations and it's beyond our words. And we are just at the beginning. So I think I'm going to end it for today. I'm so pleased for whoever has joined me. I love hearing from you. If you have anything to add or any questions, it would be great. We could have a great discussion. Thank you so much and have a blessed day.